it's mainly on the quality of information that you get from the actors, among researchers, or from the informant. Is that clear, Jibril? Okay, good. Thank you. And then the next question is from Mbak Krisnawati. What kind of phenomena that can be analyzed using Nvivo 12 or Pro? Okay, so this is the same questions as Pak Khairuddin from Castles, if I'm not mistaken. Pak Khairuddin asked about participatory action research. So regardless what the approach you have conducted, NVivo will analyze anything to do with text-based or text-rich data. So anything to do with text, we can do it. So the phenomena doesn't matter whether you do have only one phenomena or you have multiple phenomena. We call this as multiple cases, and that is not a problem as long as the data that you have is all text-based or text-rich data, and that is the answer to your questions, Ibu Krisnawati. The third one, Henrik asked, can we do it artificial neural network? This is a different question than before. And then I look at Google, and this is the answer. So you can see it. This is the picture of artificial neural network, or ENN. It's a new. It's quite trendy at the moment that we conduct our research, qualitative research using ANN. And people can do this, but at a minimum level. So you can't expect that much with and people use in analyzing the ENN. But there is a software that for you can address this better, and that's called Leximancer. Leximancer. Uni Adelaide is very active using Leximancer. And another program related to ANN is called as the Force Viewer. Force Viewer is free, and you can use that also analyzing the ANN. So I hope to answer your questions, Pak Hendrik. So it is possible if you want to use this, but Nvivo, it's doing it at the minimum level because we are going to do it with through mind maps, and that is has some limitations.
Sorry, Bu Elvia.
Except yes.
Yeah, Bu Elvia, some participants mentioned that your voice is not really clear, quite bergema, Ibu. Okay.
Are you okay, Mas? Is it better?
Okay, it is better. Yeah.
Okay, but
it's much better. Thanks, Ibu.
I have to change it. Yes, I just have to tweak a little bit. Turn off my WhatsApp. Otherwise, sorry about that.
Okay.
I just have to change the setting of my. Okay. Is it better?
Yeah.
Can you check with the participants, Mas?
It's clear.
Yes, it's much better. It's clear.
It's clear
now. Yeah, it's clear. Much
okay.
clear. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, I know what the problem is. Okay, so Pak Hendrik, I hope I mentioned I addressed your questions. Apparently, Nvivo could only do it with the help of mind map and all those visualizations, type of visualizations. But the stronger software that can address your questions is Leximancer or the Force Viewer. Ibu Amrita Saraswati, what if the language used by the informant is local language, say Japanese, for instance? Do we have to search for word equivalent if we use to help the dictions? Dictions only works for English. So unless like Nvivo can do Bahasa Indonesia, can do Bahasa Jawa and Bahasa Batak, doesn't matter. Nvivo 12 runs the dialect or Indonesians language that we use, doesn't need to be translated in English. So you don't have to have the, what is it called? You don't have to have the fee in translating the files. So that's the beauty of Nvivo. You can use your own languages or dialects or even Bahasa Indonesia to run your data. But you have to bear in mind, because it's not stated English or it's not transcribed in English, when you do the coding and the sentiment analysis, this must be conducted manually. So because it's not run using the English versions, apparently Nvivo only deals with 8 languages at the moment. So Bahasa Indonesia is not one of the 8 languages. So we need to do it manually in terms of coding and in terms of sentiments. The rest, we can do it with our own language. So if you want to run sentiment and you want to run coding, you need to do it manually. And that's, I'm going to show it to you in a minute. If your data is English, you can do the coding, auto coding, or all those types of coding, as well as the sentiments automatically. You just have to press the auto coding button immediately. Questions 5. I hope I answered previous questions. Pak Iwan, could
Bu
you
Elvia,
please
sorry, Bu Elvia.
provide examples? Yes.
Your slides book, can you move to Q5? Because it show here is Q3, the question 3. Okay, this one. Thanks, Bu.
Wait. Is this okay? No. Oh,
This is okay, Bu.
this one is what did you see, Mas?
Yeah.
Q5?
We see the inside of your PowerPoint, actually. I think it's better to back or end slide book.
Is that okay?
This one, okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes there's a lag or sometimes there's a problem with that. Okay, good. So, can you see it? So that first is the questions number 4. It's about that dialect, Bahasa Jawa, and also in Indonesians and also in English. So it's just for coding and for sentiments that you need to translate it into English. So put the transcribing script for you in the Google Translate, and then you can do this with the sentiments and coding automatically. Questions 5, could you please give examples on papers or articles that use content and thematic analysis? Easy, you just go to Google Scholar and write it down, content and thematic analysis, and you get this good paper. These are 2 great papers talking about the content and thematic analysis. Hope you can download that papers, very great papers giving a very clear explanations on in using the content and thematic analysis. Questions number 6. Ikhtiara Isarina, Ibu Ikhtiara Isarina, asking about grounded theory. There are open coding, selective coding, and axial coding. These are the definitions of different types of coding, okay? This coding can be done through Nvivo. We just name it and we just change it depending on the purpose of your coding, and that can be done through the thematic analysis. 7, Ibu Pamela. Yes?
Sorry, the slide book?
Oh, it's lagging again.
Oh, it's lagging.
Lagging, yeah.
Oh,
so
I
what
see.
did you see? It's lagging. It's lagging.
Q5.
Oh, it's lagging. I'm not so sure. It's lagging, Mas Dias. Definitely it's lagging.
Sorry. Yep.
Is that, can you see it?
Yes, this one, Bu. Yeah, should be all right.
Okay, just to let you know that even we live in Adelaide and internet is very strong. We use NBN system. But because everyone works from home, especially at this hour, so it can be a delay in terms of sending files because of the second outbreak, the second wave of outbreak of coronavirus in Melbourne. So now we are very strict that we must stay at home. So that's the reason why internet is a bit slow. Questions from Ibu Pamela. She's the Ketua Alumni FMIPA UI. She's in Kerinci at the moment. Ibu Pamela asked about these questions. If qualitative research is in the form of literacy review about ideology or value, unity in diversity, with additional interview data from speakers and that come from historians, lecturers, politicians. Should it also not use descriptive analysis? Then what method is the most suitable of the three other methods? My answer is, if you want to send a critical paper, critical review, you have to use others than just descriptive analysis. So this is possible if you want to interview different types of interviewees, and that constant comparative method analysis can be used in order to make an analysis based on the content, thematic, and constant comparative, looking on the insights or the thoughts of different constituents. So that is possible, but you need to do it above the descriptive analysis. Next slides, Mas Dias, I just want to ask you whether you have seen the next slide from Pak Khairuddin in Newcastle. Pak Khairuddin asked, when are we using taxonomic analysis? Okay, Pak Khairuddin, this is similar to your previous questions on participatory action research. So it doesn't matter what approach you're doing for your qualitative study, as long as you do have the text-based and text-rich data. That's something that we can run, and we can use Nvivo for your research. Questions number 9 from Mas Arya Bayu Pangestu from ITB Bandung. I'm trying to implement a new approach in community development method, and I would like to assess the impact of new approach on different demography in a community. I'm thinking to use the constant comparative analysis. Again, I've addressed this, but I'm not really sure what your question is about. Again, if you run this into regressions, because if you mention this to look at the impact of new approach, that means there's a regressions. I assume it's regressions analysis, but Nvivo can help you in terms of measuring one of your variable in your regressions model. Okay, so it can help you to measure more accurately one of your variable. So, and that can be in terms of constant comparative analysis. The last questions number 10. The last questions comes from Ibu Nur Husniah Indrawati. Ibu Husnia asked me about an example of single interview. So Ibu, if you download the Nvivo, you see a sample project, okay? In the left side here, you can see there is interview, okay? And that left side, there's interview in here. So that interview, if you click, you will have a lot of people have been interviewed for this project. It's an environmental project. One of them is Barbara. So Barbara, Betty, and Paul, and Charles, Dorothy, Helen, Ken, and everyone there, okay? So if you want to look at the pattern, what Barbara said, so we want to make a constant comparative method for just one particular interviewee, then we can do it. So I think Ibu Desti is here. Ibu Desti from UI. If Ibu Desti is here, Ibu Desti is running a project on Dana Desa, and Ibu Desti is interviewing different constituents, and one of the constituents is the anggota BPD, Village Supervisory Body. So Ibu Desti, if you run this, so I can show it to you, connecting to your files or questions to Ibu Nur Husnia. Ibu Desti, you are the interviewer. So that means this one, Henry has Desti. And then say Teteh Eva is your interviewee in this case. So this is something that you can do it just for one single interviewee of Teteh Eva from Bogor. I think it's Desa Tegal in Bogor. And that can be used for you to analyze whether the topics or the themes that raised by Teteh Eva in terms of supervising dana desa, BLTDD, bantuan langsung dana desa, it's different before and after she or receive the bantuan langsung dana desa. So before or after, or maybe in different locations, then you can compare this. So I hope Ibu Nur Husnia, I can answer your questions. That's something to do with the constant comparative for one single interview. I think I finished with that 10 questions, Mas Dias. You might select later on the best questions, and you might praise them with any presents or
Yes.
hadiah, things
All
like
good.
that.
There will be 2 presents for the great questions.
Okay, good, great. Okay, I think that will be fine, and I hope I have answered all of the questions raised yesterday. And I just want to let you know all that for these sessions, I'm going to start with Nvivo. Okay, so I'm going to start with Nvivo. And then I'm going to stop for a while. I'm going to stop for a while to get questions from you, If you do have questions, and then Mas Dias is going to pick it up, and then we are going to read that. So every now and then I'm going to stop in order to get a few questions out of the floor. Okay, so hope you don't mind with that process. I'm going to show you my Nvivo now. Okay, good. So I'm going to start first. I'm going to close this one. Okay, so when you start with your Nvivo, this is what you have. Remember when I mentioned it to you yesterday in a second, I just have to close this. In a slides, this is what you see in your Nvivo. So I'm going to show it to you how it looks like when you start from the scratch. If you start from the scratch, okay. Okay, so I'm going to share it with you. This is when you start from the first time. Okay, that's when you start. Oh, that's when you start. Okay, you see, we do have the ribbon view. Okay, and this is the navigations view. So the row is the ribbon view. This one is navigations view. You do have files. Okay, that's when you store the file. We do have 2 types of file, internal and external files. You do have also memos. Memos is like your scribble, your catatan. This is very, very powerful for you to conduct literature review. Okay, very, very powerful message. For you, if you want to write a paper, just do it from here. You start with memo. You start with memo and then right click and then you click write memo and then you write your project. Like what I've done now, I put ringkasan, for instance, or I put lit review, or I put bab 1 for my paper. Chapter 1, introductions or research problems. Or you can start with your new paper, environmental and social and environmental analysis related to COVID-19, for instance. Okay, so you do have files, and then you do have memos. That's your notes and catatan. And then you do have also your notes. Notes is coding. Remember when I talk about content analysis and thematic analysis, this is the one. And I'm going to tell you how to conduct these notes later on, as well as how to conduct the files and the memo. In the navigations, you can also see the files. The files, as explained earlier, it can be divided into internal and external. Can you see? Can you see it, Mas? Yes, internal and external. What's the difference between internal and external? External means it's not stored in your computer. It's outside. It's in the cloud. It's somewhere outside your computer. I want to advise you, if you want to do externally, make sure that your internet is quite stable. If you don't have a stable internet, don't do it. But there are cases that you have to go online. For instance, e-book or e-facilities, e-journals. That is something that you can't download, you can't store it. And that's something that you have to do it externally. And that you have to put it in external drive. Another example of external one is like, for instance, you do have 50,000 pages of PDF files, and you just need to have 5 pages in the middle or somewhere, and that can be done. And you don't want to download 50,000 pages in your files, and you put it online, and then you can only access it through external drive. But how about the TikTok? How about WhatsApp? How about social media? All of them you have to convert it into internal files. And that is way better. It's not going to change. It's not going to move once you store it. And even when you're on your trip from Malang to Surabaya, that's what I did. Or from Jakarta to Surabaya, that's what I did. I run it in during my flights, and I finished because I can run it offline. So that's the first one, files. And you can differentiate between internal files and also external files as stated here. In the internal files, you do have some folders, some files. And you can start with pictures. We talked about pictures yesterday, okay? So pictures can give you an examples, for instance, like this one, pictures, okay? So that's a picture. And area and township, so that's a picture. So you can put a picture or anything, and I can show you how to do to import that pictures or anything to do with other pictures. But these are just an examples of you to have that kind of pictures. Interviews. Mas Dias, can you see it? Does the screen
Yes.
moving?
Yes, Bu.
Is the screen moving?
It's all good,
Okay.
Bu.
Okay, good. Interrupt me if it's not, okay? So now interviews, that's the second folder. Interviews, you do have different logo here on the left side, okay? That logo showing you whether they are transcribed. This is in Word documents. This is in video, and this is transcribed, not transcribed, it's still in audio. So if you don't have the time, you don't have the budget for you to transcribe the files, you can do it either way. So you can do it with still with audio, you import your audio from MP4, doesn't matter, from your cloud. And also you have also the video, things like this. Okay, I'm going just to show it to you how to use it, like this one. This is discourse analysis. Remember when I mentioned earlier about discourse? It's an interview of a couple. And that two persons here, husband and wife, talks about the issues, and you don't have to transcribe them. So if you conduct focus group discussions, you don't have to transcribe them. You just have to listen to them. And this is how you do it. You play it like this. Okay, so this is how you play it. What's that, Mas Dias?
Ntar saya matikan.
Maybe mute all aja, Mas. Mute all. I think participants, could you please mute all voices?
Kacang dikit kayak isi ya Pak ya.
So you play it, then you can hear the voice, and you can hear the insights or the thoughts of these two persons here. And then when you hear and then you click, and it's like, there is a very, very important informations. Okay, then when you want to write it down, then you click, and then you can click edit, and then you write all of the things that they said here. This is going to save your time and your money, because transcribing interviews, transcribing videos will cost a lot of money, and not all of the informations are important for your data. So therefore, you just have to play it audioly or with the video, doesn't matter. Once you hear something important, you stop it, and then you click edit, and then you write the things here, okay? When you click edit, it's going to write it down the minutes. That's the minutes between 0:13 seconds until this hour, this minutes, and you can hear all of these contents of the interview. Okay, So that's interviews, and that can be in here. And also Helen, for instance, Helen's it can be in the form of audio only. So there is no video, just consists of audio only. The same principles as the video, okay? So you do have all of these types of interviews. Now, this is very, very important, okay? I mentioned earlier about writing a lit review. I mentioned about yesterday, you're reading one article and you get sleepy immediately once you see all those statistical figures. So what happened is that you run and you import all of your lit review in here, all of them, and then you used explore and then you analyzed it. So it doesn't matter what's going to have to happen with your data, and that's how you do it. So I'm going to share to you how to import them one by one later on, and also how to analyze the lit review and how to write it down in your paper. Okay, and that's how you do it for your the importing data in terms of lit review. Next one is news articles. Okay, this is really, really powerful. News articles is just one of the internet-based data. Okay, that is just one examples of their internet-based data. So news articles, and then Facebook, and then LinkedIn, and then Twitter, and then you do have WhatsApp. If you do have WhatsApp, I'm going to show it to you. My WhatsApp. Oh, 1 second. Where's my mobile phone? I have a WhatsApp, and because I install a Nvivo in my computer as well as then transferred to my mobile phone. In my WhatsApp, I can see a picture of a message of my Nvivo in my. I'm going to do a screenshot later on, but WhatsApp as well, we can do it. Anything to do with HTML format, you can download that and you can import this to Nvivo in terms of HTML file. In this case, they use news article or e-news as the source of information. So information from the TICCOM, Viva News, and all these blogs, everything, you can use it for your data, or from the corporate websites and things like that. Social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything. You can just name it. And you want to do constant comparative management approach by comparing whether companies stated differently in LinkedIn and in Twitter and Facebook. So you can compare the contents of informations provided by the companies as provided in different venue of social media. The last one is survey. Survey, okay? Survey means you conduct survey through online survey, not through the hard copies. We don't deal that kind of ancient type of survey. We all have to do it through online, and that is like through Survey Monkeys, Qualtrics, Google Forms, and Jot types of informations, JOT, and all those type of informations that you can do it. So you do have different folders in your data. Mas Dias, I'm going to get a questions.
Yes, please. Bu Elvia, there is a chat from Desi Priyanti. Bu Elvia, does it mean that we have to do the transcription manually, not automatically done by Nvivo?
No, Nvivo is not a transcribing software. Okay, Nvivo is not a transcribing software. If you want to go for a transcribing software, go with the hero.com. A lot of software in terms of transcribing. Nvivo is not a software in terms of transcribing. So transcribing, you have to do it manually, or you don't have to do it. The one that I mentioned earlier, you can do it with the audio or the video, and then you play it and you can hear it. You can hear it. Once it is important, you stop and you cut and right click and you write it down what it is mentioned there. I hope it is really clear, because that's not what we aim for. Transcribing is not something to do with Nvivo. Any other questions, Mas Dias?
Okay. Untuk
Mbak Adisti.
ya, untuk data survei jika menggunakan Nvivo 12 apakah bisa dalam bentuk Excel? Jadi sudah di-download dalam bentuk Excel, Bu.
If you conduct the survey through SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics, I strongly suggest that you don't copy and paste it download it through Excels, because there are a lot of messages that you lost. But if you do it through Google Forms, right? Google Forms or the GOT, or any other types of survey, tell us to survey. That's something to do with the downloading the responses through Excels. Bear in mind, Mbak Adisti, that Nvivo will only recognize the text-based data, will only run the text-based data. Do not get mixed up with EMOS. Are you familiar with EMOS? EMOS is running the quantitative data of the survey. For instance, the Likert scale, 1 to 5, or 1 to 7, 1 to 9, doesn't matter. If you do have Likert scale, this is something that Nvivo doesn't touch. That has to do with other software, and that is done through AMOS inside the SPSS, because it's quantitative. Nvivo will only deal with the qualitative figures. That means, i.e., the open-ended questions. But if you import the files in terms of SurveyMonkey, or if you import the files in Qualtrics, because they only, at the moment, they only deal with these two types of survey software, you can get all of these informations, all of the quantitative informations, the gender, everything, all in a very nice column, and you can make this in a different cases. Cases is category of the respondents. So it's beautifully can be run if you use SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics rather than any other software. But it's not. It doesn't mean that I encourage you to use just SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics at the moment. Yes, just do. But you can also use it in Google Forms. But there are some limitations that maybe not automatically run by Nvivo. That's something that I want to tell you about this. Okay. Any other questions, Mas?
You wanna add a question from Mirna, Ibu? Bu Elvia, after we analyze sentiment the interview results, can we process it with SWOT analysis?
Can we stop that one until we analyzed it? Because I'm just going to get questions in terms of that folder. Okay. Analysis, we do it later. Okay, Mas Dias, can I go on again?
Right.
Good.
Yes,
thank you.
please.
So I'm going to share the file again. So I finished explaining about the files. I finished explaining about two types of files, internal files and external files. I also finished about writing these different types of folders. What I saw, like supervising students in different places, students, they got mixed up and then they just put everything at once in one file. And that is really not a good idea. You have to differentiate the files into different folders as you have here. Okay. So if you do have different types of, this is instruments. Okay. So these are different types of instruments. So you do have 19 types of instruments. You do it all at once. And this one type of instruments can be one paper, another type can be another paper, maybe the combinations of the two can be another paper. So it's an ongoing project that you may do for the future. I hope it is clear. The next one is about the coding. That's something to do with the coding. So you can see it here. You can see it here, the auto coding, as well as I'm going to explain it to you about the manual coding. Remember, bear in mind, I have explained it to you earlier. When you do have English transcriptions, then you can do the auto coding. Unfortunately, if you do it in Indonesians or in Javanese, in any dialects of Indonesia, then you need to do it manually. For instance, I give you an example. For instance, if the student said that, oh, internetnya mati, that's my challenge. Internet mati, that's my challenge during this online delivery. Okay, me and Ibu Desti is writing a paper in accounting education. during COVID-19 and the sustainability of the accounting educations. And then one of the students said that nyebelin internetnya mati. This kind of informations that you can analyze using manual coding. So you right click, you highlight this nyebelin internetnya mati. You highlight this. I'm going to show it to you later. And then you right click and then you call this as a special coding, and you can do it for negative sentiment. You can put this nyebelin internetnya mati as negative sentiment. You do it manually, but you can't do it through auto coding because Nvivo doesn't recognize the word nyebelin and internetnya mati, right? So that is something to do with manual coding. Sentiment, relationship, this is the questions of A and N from Pak Khairuddin from Newcastle's earlier, as well as relationship types from Pak Khairuddin earlier, as well as memos, the one I've mentioned to you, and there are a lot of different functions and visualizations in terms of mapping, and also in terms of output. Because of our limitations, we are not going to cover everything. You know, when you go to KSR International, like what I did in many times having a training, if you want to do it all of them at once, it takes about 3 days. That's 9 to 5 every day, 3 days. You come to Nvivo KSR International in Melbourne. It costs about $800 US dollars to come and have an education there. So I have limited times. I can't tell all of them just in 2 hours or 2.5 hours. So what I can do is to get you familiar with yourself with the software. So that's it. I have explained to you about the ribbon view, about the instructions, and the navigations view on the left side on that regarding the functionalities of Nvivo. Mas Jas, I stopped. There are about 6 chats before I start with importing data, Mas Jas.
Okay, right. There is I think the question still around about the analysis, Bu.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can continue to import the data, Bu.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to continue with importing data. Yes. I'm going to continue with importing data. Sorry about this. I think I have to answer Pak Johnny's chatting. Pak Johnny Aji, I think the questions, just in case my explanations is not clear, I have to stop from time to time. Okay, Pak Johnny? Because I don't want to talk all way long and people don't get it. So that's the reasons why I get questions from time to time, but doesn't matter. Now I'm going to show it to you how to import the data. Okay, slowly I'm going to show it to you how to import the data. So if you do have this ribbon view on top of this, you do have the words import. Once you turn on your import, the gray color becomes colorful at this time. Okay, these are all your research instruments. This is what we call it, the research instruments. So we start with projects. This is a project run by Ibu Cynthia and Ibu Anggi. Architecture, a lot of projects that you do. It's a whole package of architecture project, for instance. And capture is the HTML database. Everything to do with internet based, then we can capture this through Capture. That includes the WhatsApp, that includes annual report, e-news, and everything. And then you do have files in terms of kind of like documents here. You do have, if I go with this one, it can go with docs, PDF, and then all of these files. Excel, you can see it there. You go with docs, text, PDF, audio, video, or images if we want to run visual ethnography. Okay. Excel is not run under these files. Excel is run through here. So the questions from Mbak Adisti from Unpad. Mbak Adisti, if you want to import your survey data, you can use this. So you just have to import and you click Excel and you move your Excel files to here, to this one. TXT file, CSV file, SurveyMonkey, Qualtrics, SPSS, and then qualification sheets, EndNotes for referencing, Mendeley, RefWorks, Zotero, Memo, that's your notes, Evernotes, OneNote, and Outlook. This is something that is very, very rare people do it. And that's emails, okay? Reports, extracts, codebooks, and things like that. I haven't touched these three. I haven't touched the project, but all of this encapture until Outlook I've done for my research, and these are very, very powerful, okay? So that's in terms of the types of data or research instruments, and this is the navigation is where you store them. Okay, I'm going to show it to you how to import data, for instance, yes? So if you do have a data, you want to choose one of the files from encaptures. That's HTML file, okay? So if you want to go for encaptures, for instance, I'm going to show it to you. Did you see my screen moving, Mas Dias? To take on?
No.
What did you see now?
Just the Nvivo screen, Bu.
Nvivo screen, okay. Okay, I just want to click the .com. I'm going to move it to the .com. Good. So this is the .com. Then I open the files. Did you see the .com, Mas Dias?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is the examples for you when you read this and it's like, oh, this is really good. This is a very good information. Bear in mind, you have to open the file first because Nvivo cannot open the file for you. Okay, bear in mind that you have to open the file first. So if you see there are files that needs to be opened, something like this, you have to open it. You can't assume that Nvivo is going to open it by itself. So what you do is you click tools once you have your Nvivo, you click tools, and this is going to be captured. So then you click tools and you are going to capture this HTML to PDF files. So you do the capture, and that going to have a message that you're going to see the web page as PDF or article as PDF. Normally I choose this one for just for a better reasons, okay? And then you bear in mind that the file goes to documents folder, and then you capture this. So once it captures, once it is captured, the file is already captured and moved to my documents. The same principles for Twitter, the same principles for Facebook, the same principles for the LinkedIn, okay? So if you do have a Facebook account, sorry, I just have to share it to you how to do with the Facebook account. So this is just a Facebook account. So what you need to do is the same thing. You open someone's, but you have to get the permissions, okay? If you don't have the permissions, you can't do it. So you have to get the permissions. This is my Facebook. I don't want to see others because that's, again, about the ethical issues. You do with tools, the same thing, and you do with encapture, okay? And all of my timelines, all of my status is going to be captured and it's going to be moved through my PDF files, the same principles as what I've done before with regard to moving from HTML to HTML to my PDF files. The same thing. This is still reading. This is still reading, but it's the same process. Okay, so that's how you do it, and that's how you import files from HTML. The next one is for you to go to, I'm going to show it to you for interviews, for instance, okay? So if you want to import your interviews, what you do is that you need to look at whether you store this in MP4, in audio, or in transcriptions or transcribing script. So if you want to import audio, of video, then you have to click this one, that one, yes. Then you go to this, and then it's going to go with your audio. For instance, if I want to go with my audio one, okay, so I go with my audio one. This is just an example, and that's from Zoom, my Zoom yesterday, or my Zoom meeting. Then I have audio. I have also the Zoom, the video one. Doesn't matter. Then I can import that, and it goes to the files, the one that I've showed it to you earlier, and that is going to be in that files like this. Okay. Questions, Mastias, because then I'm going to go through with survey.
Okay.
I think I've covered all of them. Or pictures. I'm going to show it pictures and survey in a minute. Okay.
Actually, there are many questions about the link, about the record of our workshop, but we will send the link after finish this workshop. Jadi jangan khawatir, terakhir nanti kita akan ada link YouTube-nya. Okay. The questions, Ibu, about in cases, dari Seto, Mas Seto, ini kayaknya kuliah di OC juga nih. In cases like having verbatim transcriptions in Bahasa Indonesia or Javanese dialect, which one is more preferable? Do we need to translate first before analyzing in Nvivo, or we need to analyze first then translate into English before writing for publication? Maybe your experience, Bu.
Okay, Mas Seto, hello, Assalamualaikum, Mas. Mas Seto is a PhD student in Latrobe University in Melbourne. Don't you know Mas Seto, Mas Dias?
Yeah, Bu.
Yeah, of course. His project is excellent project. So it's a very great project. I know his project. Mas Seto, I think I have addressed that kind of questions earlier. You don't need to translate it for like when you want to go with the content and thematic analysis. But when you want to do it with auto-coding and sentiment, that's something to do with the translations, because Nvivo cannot recognize all of these difficult languages, and that's the reasons why, or difficult terms. So it's going to be more sensitive if you translate them. But Mas Seto, you have to be very, very careful when you translate them. You know, with the translations, sometimes you lose the meaning, kehilangan makna, right? And if you lose the meaning, it can change your findings. Be very, very, very careful. So if you're not really confident with the translations, or if you think that translations might change your findings, do it manually. Do it manually. So what you do, you need to read it in Bahasa Jawa, in Padangese, whatever languages, in Bahasa Indonesia. You are the one who is going to code this with other researchers, normally with your supervisor. So if I'm supervising PhD students, like for instance, Ari Suryawati, we did supervise her with 3 different supervisors. Ari is from University of Mahasaraswati in Bali. 3 different supervisors is going to code the same thing as what Ari is doing it. And then we check and recheck on that coding for validity and reliability purposes. That's in order to reduce bias. So it's not only you, Mas Seto, who is going to make the coding, but also among researchers, of your supervisors, of your friends, and you might check and recheck whether this coding really not subjectively driven. Okay, Mas Seto, I hope I answer your questions. Next.
Thanks. Ibu, from Pak Hairudin, means Nvivo-nya nih harus remains open nggak sih while capturing the HTML, Bu?
Pak Heru, Nvivo, it's like when you work with your Word documents. So it's going to open all the times, but if you don't save it, your file is gone. And Nvivo is going to remind you every 15 minutes that you need to save your files. So it's offline, and you need to save it from time to time, just in case electricity or power outage. And that's the only reasons. But you don't need to have internet. You don't have to open the Nvivo while you download the files. What I did is that when I import this one, I import, and I want to import files from my Encapture. I downloaded all of my files in my Encapture, and then I imported them at once. So I don't do it one by one, but I imported all of them at once, and I imported together at once. Okay.
Okay. This is
Anyone?
also quite similar to what Farouk mentioned. Farouk is PhD student juga. Dear Bu Elvia, to capture the social media, is it possible to take capture within a certain time frame period, Bu?
Say it again, sorry, Mas. Is it possible?
Is it possible to take capture with a certain time frame period? For example, only a 1 year or 2 years?
That's a very good question, Mas Farouk. If you want to capture it in different periods, then you can do the constant comparative, okay? So before the pemilu and after the pemilu, what kind of discussions in the Facebook or in LinkedIn before pemilu and after pemilu? That can be really a great comparisons, and that can be done through constant comparative method analysis. So you don't have to be in different periods. You can do it in the same period, but it will be rich if you want to compare it before and after. That is something to do with constant comparative. Okay?
I mean, is there any option, Bu, untuk memilih, oh saya hanya pengen download 1 tahun aja atau 2 tahun ke belakang? Oh bisa? Oke.
Bisa.
Okay.
That's when you download the files, you have to specify it, the year, advanced search, the year you have to specify, like what you want to download English only or Japanese only, things like that. You can download it through the Google search. You go with advanced search and you specify the files. Okay?
Right.
Good.
Okay. Oh, there are many questions, Bu. Mbak Desi, I think the question is quite similar sebelumnya dengan Mas Seto. I will continue to the Desti Fitriani. Bu Elvia, if we have several research with the different topic going on at the same time, how to distinguish or take the data imported to Nvivo from one research topic to another. Jadi gimana cara mengkelompokannya nih Bu kayaknya, Bu?
Okay, Ibu Desti from FEBUI. Thank you, Ibu Desti. Ibu Desti, if you do have several projects, I advise you to go with different files of Nvivo so that you're not going to mix it up together. But if there are intersections, irisan, between the projects, you can do it together here. For instance, dana desa, you talk about the pengawasan dana desanya, and then you talk about women empowerment. You talk about, so that can be run into one files, but I advise you to do it in different files so that you're not going to get mixed up between one research to another study. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will continue, or I think it's better to continue.
Continue. Okay. Otherwise, Pak Johnny is not happy. But I'm going to share again my Nvivo. Is this my Nvivo in your slides, Mas? Yeah, the interview? Good.
Yes.
I'm going to import data. So remember, I have already downloaded information. Oh, I missed to mention, if you want to import data, you have to use Explorer. Unfortunately, they don't work with Google Chrome, sadly. Not yet, but I haven't tried yet. But I heard that it's going to be a bit dodgy if you use the Chrome. But if you use the Explorer, then you can download and have ideas better. So remember, when I download the files, for instance, I want to read from Sydney Morning Herald. Sydney Morning Herald, okay, and then I'm reading it, and then I have some news, great news about the outbreak. Okay, I open the news. You have to open it again. I'm going to look at it, and then I'm going to capture this. Okay, and everything is going to be captured and moved to a PDF files. Oh, my apology. Sorry, noise from outside. Did you hear it, Mas Dias? Yeah. I can't.
Yeah.
It's out of control. So that's okay. So you have to do it with tools and then M capture, and then you move it apparently still reading, and you move it into the files, and I'm going to show it to you. These are all imported files of my Dana Desa project. Okay, so I'm just going to show it to you in a file like this. Share screen, and that's my Dana Desa project. Okay, and capture. So here, did you see the folder, Mas?
Yep.
I have captured everything in the newspaper, everything in the blog, or everything in any websites about my Dana Desa project. Okay, BLTDD, Bantuan Langsung Dana Desa related to COVID-19. I'm dividing into something talking about the angka kemiskinan, about the community engagements, about the Dana Desa NBLTDD itself, about the corruptions on Dana Desa NBLTDD, and peran anggota BPD, village supervisory body, and also again the community engagements, but in different ways, and also the women empowerment. So if I click the women empowerment, these are all the news that I get, and I've transferred from my HTML to PDF files. These are the files that I have imported. So if I read it, I can't read it because it has to go, see the files, it's not, well, that's the files. That is something to do with the downloading from the websites. But if I go from HTML, this is the HTML one, I can't read it unless I read it in Nvivo. So these are the one that I downloaded from articles, anything from internet, but these are the two files that I captured from HTML files. Okay, so if I have imported that all of the files into my Nvivo, what happened is that, okay, that news article is going to be like this. For instance, you do have 100 and capture. You may differentiate this between folders and folders like the one I have. For instance, just the woman empowerment, about the village consultative body. It's about the corruptions. It's about the poverty alleviations and things like that. Then you are secured with all of your data. Now, I'm going to go with survey. If you don't have any questions further, I'm going to go with survey. So what do I do? Import, and then I go with Survey Monkey, or I go with Qualtrics. Okay. If I have it in other types than the other two, then I go with Excel files. If I run it into SurveyMonkey, of course, you have to have that responses first, okay? Do not create the SurveyMonkey when you collect them, okay? So this is what you need to do. You write it down, your links, your files. For instance, this is my account in SurveyMonkey. I hope I mentioned it. And then you can drag this into your Nvivo. You can drag this into your Nvivo, and you can import. I will let you know. I forgot about my password, but you can all import the files into SurveyMonkey, and it's going to be imported like the one we have it here. One here. This is the survey responses of 144 respondents, and it's going to be divided like this, nicely like that. It's going to be the same like what you have, like Maadisti questions in terms of Excel file. So it's going to have respondents number this. If you specify it in names, it's going to be under the name, and it's going to be the dates of the return date that's going to be captured immediately. But if you do have it in Excel, this might not be there. Okay, so informations might not be complete with regard to the demographic situations of the respondents. So that's the things that you can do with SurveyMonkey. Now, I'm going to tell you about importing pictures. So if you want to import pictures, this is what you do. Import, and then you go with images. And then, for instance, I'm going to go through the documents, and I do have some files in my documents. Earlier, this was sent by Mas Romi, Mas Romi Hidayat from Lombok, for instance. I'm going to show it to you. Import. Okay. And then I'm going to share to you the pictures. See, I'm sorry, this is a bit dirty, but that's what he sent today. And this is about his research area. Mas Rami Hidayat is a researcher from Stikas Kusuma Bangsa in Lombok, and he is the head of Gugus COVID-19 in Lombok, Mataram. And he sent me these pictures to me. I said, what can we do with this picture book? Oh, that's a lot of information that you can do. Remember, Mas Dias also has a picture of ibu-ibu with daster kuning, with her PJ, and apparently a lot of rich informations that we can have. So what can we see from these pictures? Okay, so apparently this was dumped somewhere in around the corner in Mataram, Lombok. You can see there are some patterns that you can see. There are cigarettes and then aqua glass, and also some cigarette smokes and some plastical things, and the dirts are there. Okay, that's what you have to do. You can import this, and now you can analyze this in your files. So that's how you import the files. So Mas Dias, I've finished with importing files, everything. It's all done there. Now I'm going to go to the analysis. So I hope I don't have questions on importing data.
Yeah, I think it's all clear, Bu.
Importing data finished?
Yeah, I think I don't see any questions about importing data, Bu.
Okay, good. Now I come with exploring or analyzing the data. So what you do in these files, in this ribbon, what is very important is for you to have import, and the second one is explore. That's the thing, just to import and explore. Okay, so explore means analysis, import means data collection. So data collections and data analysis. That's just two. Okay. You want to learn other things? Maybe we do it later. But what else more than just data collections and data analysis? Okay. So if you want to go with the data analysis, what you need to do is you click explore, and you do have a lot of information provided there. Okay. I have mentioned to you that we do have 4 types of analysis: descriptive qualitative analysis yesterday, and then the second one is the then the second one we do have the, I'm going to share it with you so that you can still remember the files. This one here. Okay, slideshow. You still remember this of the one that we have discussed yesterday? Descriptive, content, thematic, and constant comparative methods analysis. Okay, so you do have 3 types. How can we run these 3 in your Nvivo? So what you can do if you want to run this in Nvivo for content analysis, remember content is something to do with the topics. Thematic is something to do with the themes. So it's a detail, information's detailed insights of the topics, and constants when you want to compare the topics or the themes. So in Nvivo, what you need to do is use, if you do the explore button, you can do text search, you can do word frequency. So first, if you want to do the word frequency, you want to run the topmost concerns topic or top discussed topics, and that each has to have word of 5, for instance, and you want to just do it for selected items only from interviews. Okay, interviews, and it's only from Barbara. You don't want to have interviews from any other things. Then you do it okay, and you run this into run query. Okay, run query, and then you get this, the all of the words that mentions by her. Apparently the top thing that she said is about thinking. So this is something that you can draw this in a picture like this. For instance, the bigger the size of the fonts means that's the most concerned topic. But of course, Barbara will come first. But you don't need to have this Barbara. So what you need to do is you just have to get rid of the Barbara, right click, and then you move and then you get rid of these functions by telling the Nvivo to get rid of these things like your coverage. Okay, so if Barbara you don't want to have it, what you need to do is just you have to add to the stop list button here. Okay, and then Barbara is out. So then at the end, you will only deal with the most concerns topic, the most concerns title of what mentions by Barbara. This one, if you want to compare it, you can do it like this. You can compare this counting with the percentage. So the second column here doesn't have any meaning. So this is the length of the word. The count and the coverage is very, very important for you to put it in a regressions or for you to do a comparative analysis. If you want to compare between Barbara and for instance, Paul or Barbara with the survey or anything like that and things like that. You can also run this selected items, not just Barbara, but also you can do it interviews and you want to compare it later on with survey. So it doesn't matter. In this case, if you run it with all of the interviews and you get different informations, apparently people will come first and others will come later. Okay, so it's going to be different. So you can also draw this in a tree diagram like this or in a cluster analysis like this. This is very powerful one if you want to also make some conclusions. You see that there? That's a cluster analysis that you can report based on each data. Okay, what is not mentioned in YouTube or what is not mentioned in Nvivo websites anywhere else, this is just the basic way for you to analyze it using content analysis, and that was not mentioned anywhere else. Regardless what your data is, if you want to do content analysis, the first way for you to do content analysis is by clicking explore, and then you do word frequency, and then you can talk about the most said words here, for instance 50 or for instance 100 or for instance 200, doesn't matter, or just 20, doesn't matter. And I want you to change this into 5, otherwise you get AND, or maybe but, BUT, and things like that. Very important though, you see the word here, okay? This is like a volume. You can go down, lower it down like this, okay? You can lower it down like this. So apparently if you lower it down, it's going to be less similar. So talking, speaking, communicating, whispering, it's going to be recorded at once, okay? Kadang-kadang kan kita bilang ngomong, bicara, okay? Mengatakan, that's also the similar one. So you go down to make it everything captured at once so that you're not going to repeat singular and plural, as well as speaking, similarities between speaking and talking and things like that. And you click the run query. Do not forget to click the run add project if you want to save the files into your project. I think that's the first one with regard to the word frequency. I'm going to continue with one more, text search, and I'm going to take questions, Mas Dias. The next one for content analysis. So that's content analysis using word frequency. What does it mean? Once we take these figures, for instance, I'm going to take that with that for my selected files, and I'm going to do it with interviews. Okay, interviews, and I'm going to take it, okay, run query. So the first word that is mentioned is people, word cloud. So how do I write this in my paper? So if this is last figures of your findings, you want to say that people are the most concerned topics, are most discussed topics by the community with regard to this issue of COVID-19 outbreak. That's just an example. Okay. Apparently, when I run my Dana Desa project on COVID-19 on BLTDD, the first word that comes up is COVID-19, and the second biggest word is corruption, sadly. So apparently, the Dana Desa and corruptions are very, very linked. The LTDD and the corruptions are very, very close linked. Well, it's not about poverty, it's about the corruptions that people are concerned more. And that can be a very, very good finding to let you know about these findings, okay? The next one for content analysis is using text search, okay? So what you need to do, you explore, you type text search. The one that I did before, it's mainly data driven. So let the data talk. I'm going to leave it up to the data talk and what are the most 10 topics concerns or most 20 topics concerned. The data will talk about it. There's no theoretical framework to talk about that data. So just let the data talk, and then it's going to be driven by the data. This is an example of grounded theory. Let the data talk. With text search, you have to have the theory. So the theory is inside your mind, and you have to type it, this text search based on the theory you have. So if you want to do with community engagements or with sustainability, in this case, I have to find sustainability, for instance, okay? And I have to find also and that is connecting the word has to be capital letter N, like this. And also I have to put something like or. So N is you have to have two of them at once or either one, so it doesn't matter. Landfill, for instance, I have to do it landfill, okay, and sustainability, community. This is just an example, okay. Okay, sustainability and community and waste have to come together, but or landfill, you don't have to. It can be or. If you can get it, you can get it. If you don't get it, doesn't matter. So sometimes community, you want to have plural forms. So if you want to have plural, then you type with the start and then you type with this one, okay? And then you run with your data. For instance, if you want to go with interviews only, you just go with files, and then you go with interviews, and then you click OK, and that's just this one, and then you did the run query, okay? Because it's too specific, you don't have it. So what you need to do, you may get rid of this once, and then you can run this run query, and then it gets you the files. Oh, apparently this is not the topics that they talk. Okay, then I can talk about water, maybe not just the landfill. I talk about the water quality, for instance, water waste, water and landfill, or water, maybe just water by itself, because I have to know what the concept that is written in the paper. Then I just run query. And apparently those are the sources of information talks about the water. This is content analysis. This is not thematic analysis, okay? So you get these files and you get this Barbara talks water. If I open Barbara interview, I can see all of water is mentioned here. So everything to do with water, it's all mentioned here. Apparently, if you look analysis, that one here, this is CCM. This one is for survey data, okay? And the rest on here, these are all the visualizations of your data, okay? And that you can see it from maps here, all of the visualizations of your data, you can see it from here. For instance, after you draw it in a notes, you can draw it like this. You can also draw this in terms of mind maps, in terms of project maps, for instance, and things like that. And then all of them, you can do it once you already put the notes, and that is the next step, which I'm explaining to you, that one here, notes. Once you do the notes, then you can draw whatever you like in terms of the maps that is outlined here. Now I come to the stage where I'm going to explain it to you about making the notes and how to do it manually as well as the auto coding. Yes. So you want to make the themes. Remember, you already found the topics, 20 most set topics, or you have mentions about the 20 most concerns issues. That one is driven by the data. When you prepare the notes, I'm going to repeat, when you prepare the notes, these notes can come from your text, from your word frequency, but it might not be complete. It might not be comprehensive enough. You have to add them, your notes here, with your theory driven. So you might add them. This is based on your word frequency, but you might add them with your theory driven. So if you talk about, I just give you an examples about my Dana Desa project with Ibu Desti. I talk about poverty, I talk about corruptions, I talk about PLTDD, I talk about community engagements, I talk about BPD, the role of BPD, Badan Permusyawaratan Desa atau Village Consultative Body, I talk about women empowerment, I talk about geographical area, I talk about governance, okay? That's are the topics that I want to discuss, and I'm going to look at the themes one by one. For instance, for this research here, the researchers have made all of these topics, okay? So I'm going to look all of this topic and you can see it here, okay? So these are the main topics. This is what we call it the, we can call this as on your word frequency, okay, but you might add them, make it them with your, that's nice. This is what we call it mother node or theory. This is the mother. So this is called, if you talk about, I just give you an example. If you talk about the attitude, I just give you an examples. Attitude is perilaku. The attitude can be mixed, can be negative, can be neutral, can be positive. You can also have this from your sentiments. Okay, sentiments down there. So you also have the topic of balance. Remember, these topics were taken from your word frequency, and on top of that, it has to be driven by the theory. Now, you can generate this, how to create this. It's easy how to create this. What you need to do is you go to notes, okay? You can do this and you go with notes. Sorry, it's just because of the Zoom, my file is not, okay, just want to make it. Okay, like that, okay? Yes. So if you want to add more, you just have to right click. And then you make a new note. Again, this is the topic. This is not the theme. You make a new note. For instance, you want to go with water quality. This is just an example, okay? Water quality. So it's going to come with another notes and it's going to be there. If you want to make a child note there, then just right click and then you make the right click, and that is water management, water waste, for instance, under water quality, and you can right click and you can go with that one. Now, this is manual coding. This is run for Bahasa Indonesia, for languages rather than English, languages outside that 8 languages run by Nvivo. You need to conduct the manual coding on your own based on word frequency and based on your theory set board. You have to have the keywords from your theory. Then you create that. So once you run the data, so okay, so that's already my node. Once you run the data, I'm going to go to my files, okay? And then I'm going to look at my interview, okay? It doesn't matter whatever your file is, whatever your file is. So if I go to my files, okay? Yes, my file is frozen. Okay, so if I go to my files, for instance, yeah, frozen. 1 second, okay? My file is frozen. So once you go with your files, so in the view, for instance, and I'm going to run the node manually or through auto coding. Because this is in English, I can run this through the auto coding. So what I do, I drag this one here, and then I right click and I can do auto coding because this is stated in English. What I do is I run this auto coding, I click auto coding, right click like that, and it will ask me what you want to code for. Is it coding for themes? I'm talking about thematic, or are you going to code this into sentiment? I'm going to do it one by one. If I want to do it through themes, then I go with themes and I click this, okay? And then it's going to run my themes in a sentence, not in paragraph, of all of the interviews that I have. Then it's going to auto-code. That one is going to be auto-coded automatically. The beauty of Nvivo. So someone talks about fishing, tentang apa namanya perikanan, and that's talking about commercial fishing, fish houses, and things like that. Talking about water, the issues on water. This is topics, this is the themes. And that is something to do with water quality, fresh water, and things like that. And if I finish and I run that and I get all of the nodes under my nodes here, so that is still like 96%, 98 going to go, and it's going to be coded automatically if it is stated in English, okay? This one is not just the coding, but so this is the coding. You can see it there. You can also have the summary here. That's the summary. You can also have the coding like this. This is beautiful. And you can also have this like this. So Barbara talk about area like this. Barbara talk about change. Barbara talk about commercial fishing and things like that. And the beauty about this is that when you want to download this and you want to see what it is mentioned by Barbara, I just can click it and I get all of the informations in 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 um, in few words, and then it can goes with my findings. So I can go without files, and then I can do it citations, and I input it into my paper, or of the insights or the thoughts made by Barbara, for instance. Okay, so if I were to see it, if you want to see it, you can show it to you. Now, I'm going to repeat because sometimes because I know this really, really well. Sometimes I can't explain it to you well if you're the beginners. What I'm going to explain it to you before we start. Okay, so what you do is explore. This one too for content. This one is for thematics. So you go with coding. If you want to code, you can code it into what we call it the manual coding, or you can do it with the auto coding. Auto-coding is only run for English and any other 7 languages that we don't have it. Once, okay, my files is shut down. I lost my Nvivo. 1 second. Okay. The system sometimes. Okay, good. So I'm going to share screen to you. So this one here, if I want to do it manual coding, the one I have mentioned earlier, what I do is I go to move to my coding here, and I would like to have this one, this one, for instance. I have my manual coding already, peran perempuan and things like that. Okay, now this is bahasa Indonesia. Okay, I give you an examples. If I read from the newspaper, and then I read this, and I'm going to read about the I read these articles, okay? So just an example of these articles. It's going to be seen in here, somewhere there. Why it's not, I think it's the system, here. So if you want to see it there, apparently it's that way, okay? And then you go with right click in there, and then you can see it with Control F. You can find, for instance, something like peran perempuan, okay? Peran perempuan. And then you can go with a file, not this one, okay, 1 second. I have to go with the explore text search first, close this one first. One, it's 1 second. So that is going to show it to you how to run the manual coding. Text search, I'm going to run peran perempuan. That's text search. That's content analysis. Peran perempuan, all of my data. And then I run query, okay? And these are the one. These are the newspapers or my resources talk about peran perempuan, okay? Apparently, this resources talks 22 times about peran perempuan rather than any other things, okay? So if I want to go to this one, oh, okay, this one is really interesting. Talk about peran perempuan a lot. Okay, then I click that. And then I read the articles and I can see it there. Mas Dias, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, so if I go to the articles, this is the manual coding. To take that long, you know, peran perempuan telah diakomodir oleh So, and then I right click, and then I put the code, okay? Then I can move it to my peran perempuan, because this is peran perempuan. And then I put there, and it's going to be imported. That's how you do it with manual coding. Then you go again here. You can differentiate. Di Maumbi sendiri, peran perempuan dalam segenap aspek. I said like, okay, so this is about peran perempuan, but this has to go with the child node. I'm going to do it later for that my child node. You can do it for the mother node. You can also do it for the child node. At the end, you can see the nodes will consist. At the end, your nodes will consist all of your files that you have put it there. So peran perempuan, you can see it everything to do with all of the citations that you can have there. So once you want to write it down in your paper, you can copy and paste this one. For your citations, you put quote and quote, and it was mentioned by this one if it is really a good finding. Other way to do the auto coding, to do the coding is to do explore, and then you do a code. When it is run in Bahasa, then I can run this, for instance, auto coding for Bahasa Indonesia. So for instance, I go this and I drag this, all of them. You don't need to go all of them. You can just do it for once. And then auto coding. And this is what is funny when you run it into Bahasa, okay? So I go next. You can still say something, but it's a minimum way. So this is, I do the auto coding in Bahasa. I think the one who got, I received questions before from whoever. See that there? This is how they auto code. That's the mother node talks about yang. Talking about yang itu adalah yang adapun tetap. Well, this doesn't mean anything. But if we go down and look at of the other auto coding, oh, this is really interesting. Korupsi. So korupsi, this is talking about the nodes of corruptions, and also if you want to go with that other things like desa. That's the context of desa. And then you can see later on what is inside that discussions on desa. So you still can do it with auto coding, but it's not as rich as English when you do the auto coding. Okay, so that's what I'm going to share to you in terms of auto coding. Now, I'm going to go with sentiments. Sentiments. So if you read this, and then you read something, and then you said like, oh, okay, this one is negative. So you just have to right click, okay? And then you go with the code, okay? And then you go with the sentiment. That sentiment. This is what you call it a manual sentiment. If you want to have it negative, you put it in negative and you click it. Then everything negative will be stored in your notes, in your sentiments as negative one or positive one, or maybe a mixed feeling or no opinion or no feelings at all. That is done through what we call it the manual coding. Okay. So after this, I'm going to get questions from you because that's the most important one is I go with the questions. Okay. So one more, I'm going to show it to you about sentiments, auto sentiments, okay? So auto sentiments, that's something, I'm going to share it with you, auto sentiments. So for instance, this one in English, I'm going to go with sentiments. So I go with my files and I go with interviews, for instance, and I dragged it like this, okay? I drag it like this, right click, code, okay? And it goes to my sentiments. It's going to code all of the expressions made by all of the interviewees in terms of sentiment. If I click sentiment, okay, and then I click okay, and it's all going to run the sentiments results of the respondents as based on each of the research instruments. And that's what I'm going to tell you, and that's what we are going to have in terms of the thematic analysis. One more that I haven't finished is talking about constant comparative. Okay, Mas Dias, get questions on thematic, Mas Dias. This is a bit more complicated.
Thank you very much, Ibu. I think there are a lot of questions. Ini menunjukkan pesertanya juga semangat ini, Bu. Oke, I will start from Oke, Bu Mas Budianto, Bu. Bu Elvia, I'm still curious how to make a content analysis using pictures as data. Should we interpret data first in text format, or is there any other way to do so?
I don't think we have run the gambar, Mas, right? So my apology, Mas, I missed that. So what you need to do if you want to analyze the gambar, this is what you need to do, explore, okay? And then you move to your data, apparently your data, it's gambar, it's here, somewhere here, right? So if you click that, this is your gambar, okay? You can see it, your gambar there. Or you can import the gambar from Mas Romi before, doesn't matter, it's not that really important, okay? So if you want to do the gambar, what you need to do, if you see something interesting, remember yesterday, Mas Dias, we got questions, do we have to interpret everything in the pictures? And the answer is no, depending on what your interests are. If the picture is about the ibu-ibu, it's conducting the lelang, the auctions market in Pacitan, and that ibu-ibu is very important in terms of the way she handle the lelang. That's something to do with what you're going to do. So, Mas siapa tadi yang bertanya, Mas Dias?
Mas Budianto, Bu.
Oh, Mas Budianto. Mas Budianto is in Bogor, not in Kupang, apparently.
In Bogor, ya.
Yeah, okay. Mahalo, Mas Budianto. So this is what you need to do, Mas Budianto. You are dealing a lot with forest, right? Forestations. So you just have to highlight this forest in your location somewhere in Kupang there, Mas Budianto. Okay, you do that, and then you click. This is something that you want to tell. This area is something that you want to tell. You click edit. Once you click edit, then you can see it there. Okay. So you want to report only just this area. This is what I'm going to tell you. So you see this one. You have insert here. Then you can do this, and sorry, you can have this and insert that one here, okay? Then it's going to have the locations, the coordinate of your files, and you write it down. Di sana ditemukan banyak ikan mati. For instance, di mana ikan mati tersebut keracunan. This is just my example, okay? My apology. And you have to check this among researchers because the way we interpret the pictures can be different from one researcher to another researcher. Remember when I did this with Mas Diaz, when I saw the pictures of ibu-ibu with duster kuning in handling the auctions market, we can have subjectivity. That's Jibril's questions. That can have a different perceptions in terms of pictures. So if that is going to be a bias, you have to check and recheck. Is it really the meaning of this? So then when you have this, you might go, and then the file that you have there, this is something that you can drag again like this, and you can do the auto coding. The same thing as lit review, the same thing as um, um, interviews. I think I need to talk with Mas Budianto. Did I answer your questions or not, Mas Budianto?
Mas Budianto, I unmute your voice. You still there? Hello, Mas Budianto.
Or anyone that wants to have questions on pictures.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'll continue, Bu ya.
Jadi nanti ini, so this
Yeah.
one here, the transcriptions that is going to be recorded in here on the left side, and then you can run it into coding, auto coding, sentiments, and things like that. The same thing as the one before.
Okay. Right. Clear artinya memang harus ditulis dulu ya Bu ya, penjelasan dari
Harus diinterpretasikan dulu. And validity-nya is really important. You can't miss that one too.
And it can use a geotag ya Bu ya. Jadi so we can
everything
identify the place. Okay, thank you very much Bu Elvia. Bu Elvia, we have a question from Harsha Harun. Bu Elvia, saat melakukan coding manual, dapatkah kalimat hasil coding pada interview atau literatur ditempatkan pada lebih dari satu tema atau notes yang berbeda?
Yeah,
kemudian,
very good questions.
Okay.
Very good questions. Betul, Mas. Betul sekali and dapat sekali. That's the answers to that. So one article, one paragraph, one sentence can have different types of notes. That's really, really important. So it can be mother note in one sense, it can be a child note, it can be a grandchild note in another sense. So one sentence, one paragraph, in one paragraph can be classified, coded into different notes and different child notes. The answer is yes. And that's a very, very good question.
Okay. Ibu, and also question from Nur Aziza. This is an interesting question. Jika transkripnya bahasa Indonesia, bisakah kita mengakali dulu ditranslate ke bahasa Inggris dengan Google Translate supaya cepat untuk bisa run auto coding and sentiment will be procedurally and ethically acceptable?
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, if you don't change the meaning, it's ethically okay. But what is not ethical if you change the meaning so that you get important findings, that's unethical. Tapi if you don't change the meaning, but sometimes I talk about garbage in, garbage out, Mas Dias. So a lot of cases because your bahasa Indonesia is not good, bahasa Indonesianya juga bahasa Indonesia yang maju tak gentar, and then the English becomes more maju tak gentar, right? And then what happened is the quality of finding is so poor. So you have to check because anak-anak Indonesia sekarang, right? If you ask the questions and then the answer is OTW, what the hell is that? The first time I saw it, and then Bu, saya mah santuy saja. I said, what? Santuy saja. And then if I run this into Nvivo, it's not only just the Nvivo is bingung, it's yourself that's going to be bingung, right? So when you read this type of dialects or bahasa gaul, bahasa ala ini, you have to change it. Do not change the meaning, but at least you talk it into a more formal way for that words. And sometimes you have to change, but it's you yourself whether you know you know better than anyone else whether you change the meaning or not. So, Ibu, the idea of translating your transcriptions into English and run it into auto coding is a brilliant idea.
Mhm.
It's a
Okay.
brilliant idea to get the picture first, and then maybe you run it into a manual coding. That will be really, really good. Okay, that's
Right.
a very good suggestions. I've never done that because I'm worried if I translate it into English, I might lose some meaning. Um, and sometimes, there are some meanings that it's really hard for me. If I translate it in English, I just lost the meaning. But that's the reasons why I like to have a manual coding. And it's not going to take that long, It's very, very quick. For my Dana data, I have a very massive data. It took me less than 3 days to make it a nice picture, nice findings of my Dana data. Okay? Any
Oh.
other questions, Mas?
Bu, ini juga interesting from Amrita Saraswati. Ibu, apakah mimik wajah dapat kita masukkan sebagai sentimen? Misal dalam video interview, kalimat yang dinyatakan terdengar positif, but the expressions wajahnya sebaliknya. Bagaimana kita masukkan itu ke dalam sentimen?
I think that's going to be a very good findings as well. Tapi be very careful with bias, yeah, because sometimes, well, I'm my half of my body is Japanese, so sometimes I'm hiding my feeling, because I don't want to make offense to my opponents. Kalau saya bicara sama orang, kalau saya sebel gitu, saya nggak liatin tampang saya gitu. Tapi ada orang yang langsung gitu kan, kalau sebel kelihatan tampangnya, right? So you have to bear in mind subjectivity applies. That mimicking have to be confirmed and reconfirmed. You will be challenged with validity of your data. You will be challenged with validity of your data because different cultures. That's really good. That's really good suggestions for me to do a research for the research because Japanese people react differently rather than Bataknese people. Definitely, definitely. And with people from Sumatra Barat, for instance, from West Sumatra, or with Aussie, it's different the reactions and what they said. That's really a good research topics, and you can compare this using constant comparative. That is going to be really rich in terms of your finding. But my message has to be strong in terms of validity, checking, rechecking, confirming, and reconfirming. And you have to check it with your other researchers. Do you agree with my opinion that this is like this, and you have to discuss this in a group? Did I answer your questions, Ibu?
Okay, I will invite Ibu Amrita. Ibu Amrita, I unmute your sound. Please, Bu Amrita.
Okay, thank you for the explanation, Ibu. I think I will do that. Maybe can I recheck my findings with another? Misalnya saya orang ekonomi, apakah is it okay saya recheck itu dengan orang dari misalnya peneliti dari sosiologi or anthropology gitu misalnya, Ibu. Thank you.
Yeah, I think multidiscipline is way richer rather than when you have to conduct it on your own discipline. Okay, so that's a good way of checking and rechecking so that you to reduce bias, and that has to be explained somewhere in your methodology, Ibu. Okay,
Yeah.
that validity because you're going to be challenged with the reviewers. How do you conduct your validity with that subjectivity of informations? Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Ibu.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Mbak Amrita. Okay, Ibu, we continue to the slides.
Okay, good. So now you have done this. What I'm going to show you, the last one, is talking about the constant comparative. Okay, so content, we do it through text search and word frequency. Word frequency is data driven. Text search is theory driven. Coding is thematic analysis. Matrix coding is something what we do for constant comparative. Okay, so you click matrix coding. Okay, sorry, Mas Dias is away. Do you all see this too? Rows and columns, Mas Dias, bisa lihat?
I just closed the door. Yep, yep. I can see it, Bu.
Rows and columns, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so this is something to do with, constant comparative. You compare what it is said between instruments to instruments, interviews to interviews, okay, and all the topics on the columns. So this is what I need to do. I'm going to click this, okay, select items, and I go to files, okay, listen carefully because this is important. So I go to files, okay, I go to interviews, okay, and I'm going to drag all of this as my raw data, okay. And then for my column data, I'm going to talk about the nodes, for instance, okay, the nodes, and that's auto-coded responses, for instance. This is just an example. Hope it works. Okay, and then I run query. Bismillah. See that there? Did you see it? This is what we call it constant comparative. Every interviewer is going to be differentiated based on the perceptions, on the topics, on the notes that you have there. And then you might choose some or two topics, and you can run this to compare it, and you can run this into Mann-Whitney tests. You use comparisons between two populations, or you use Kolmogorov-Smirnov to compare whether there are significant differences, has been discussed between Paul and Dorothy, for instance, between Mary and James, and Richard and Patricia, for instance. And that is the beauty of the constant comparative analysis. I hope it is clear for you to explain about the constant comparative. That's it. What else? What else? Sentiments. That's the one. So you can see it very positive. This is auto sentiments. You can see all this, or this one has not been created, but that sentiments also can be created through the creating manually, or you can do it also of exploring manually, or you can do it also through auto sentiment. I think I finished, Mas Dias.
Right. Very clear, Bu. Terima kasih. So simple ya sebenarnya. I just thinking that we just need to like using it very routine ya, Bu ya.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, Bu Elvia, we have a questions from Bapak Faruk. Nah, ini mungkin penasaran juga Pak Faruk. Bu Elvia, really interesting on newspaper as one of the sources, but because we know there are so many online newspapers in Indonesia, how do you determine the credible or reputable newspaper sources? Thank you, Bu.
Okay. Well, of course. I have to say, yeah, this is really careful. Okay, Mas Farouk. You're doing architecture, and it's really, really important, Mas Farouk. Something to do with like FIFA news. I'm sorry, but if the turnover, the apa namanya, oplahnya, what is it that, the yeah, well, the turnover is not really big. The readers number, audience is not that really big, and it's a lot of subjectivity in the newspaper. You feel it, you know it. For me, I'm only going to accept newspapers from my students if they run newspapers. The last time I had my student from FEBUI conducting research on PT Semen Indonesia, remember, with the semen rendang, with the problems of that lady who cement herself on the feet, and she died not because of the cement, it's because of the heart attack. So he proposed to me providing all this newspaper, local newspaper. And then we do check and recheck whether they do have some hoaxes, subjectivity and hate speech and things like that. We got rid of all of these things because We as the researchers, we are not carrying any political party. We are not carrying any hat of those people who have the interest in our research. No, we have to be independent. Put away our hat, put away your political views. So you have to go with some very independent resources. This is very, very important. Those resources that are not independent, you will be challenged with the reviewers because you're not going to give it's a tendencies that you talk about some agenda in there. So normally I go with big names, okay, whether you agree or do not agree, but those big with a lot of readers, it's that what I use for my references for my research. So depends on what you believe and what you think. I think those with the size of lot of leaders is something that I rely more. Mas Faruk, did I answer your question? So Surabaya Post, Java Post in your area and for your research in Jawa Timur, that can be run really, really well. Because you're conducting a research on architect on urban planning of East Java. I think Java Post, and Surabaya Post, and all those things that can be reliable. But don't use the one that is still like and you can find only in Facebook or in your Instagram that is not reliable at all. Okay, Mas Faruk?
Oke, Ibu, crystal clear.
Very good, thank you. Mas Dias, mute.
Thank you very much, Mas Faruk. And then Ibu, we have a question from Mbak Anggi. Bu Elvia, I want to compare few images about architecture transformation. How could I do this, Bu?
Okay, Mbak Anggi from University of Udayana. Thank you so much, Mbak Anggi. If you want to compare the way you transcribe the pictures, remember when I circle and then write it down on the right side, circle, write it down on the right side. Ask your friends, ask your supervisors, ask whoever write the paper together with you as much as they can so that you have a rich data with regard to that. One pictures can have pages and pages of interpretations. That is coming from one paper only, Mbak Anggi. And after that, for constant comparative, you run this together in notes or in text search, doesn't matter. And then you compare the one that I mentioned earlier about the row and the column one in what we call it the constant comparative one. So it is possible. But if you just write in one line, and then under researchers only write one line, and it's not that really rich in terms of thoughts and insights, then you can find a very limited findings. This is the crucial part of pictures, visual ethnography. You have to write a lot more, but try to avoid subjectivity. Try to avoid your personal experiences. Biasanya sih kalau foto kayak gini loh artinya gitu. And that's something to do with, all those things. You have to avoid any subjectivity and minimum knowledge of the researcher. That is so important. Okay, Mas Dias?
Thank you, Bu Elvia. Bu Elvia, there is also a question from Septi Dewi Rahmawati. Bu Elvia, saya pernah mendengar bahwa dalam studi kualitatif harus dimunculkan tema besar. Satu makna dari semua tema yang didapatkan. Apakah benar demikian atau berlaku hanya untuk jenis metode kualitatif tertentu? Misalnya phenomenology, not in other qualitative approach.
No. It's not specific to one specific on phenomenology, but you need to talk with the bigger picture first, and then you go down and go down and go down and go down. Okay, that's reasons why it's more on phenomenology, but it can come from any other types of qualitative research data. Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Ibu from Septi Dewi Rahmawati, apakah benar juga jika sebaiknya kita membuat interaksi antar tema yang menggambarkan skema keterkaitan antar tema